Hall of Famer Eric Dickerson.
What's up, everybody? I'm Matt Leinart, 2004 Heisman Trophy winner.
Hey, I'm Zane Gonzalez.
Hi, I'm Matt Barry from ESPN. You're getting ready to watch one of the best college football podcasts ever. It's the Harris Highlight Show.
You're watching the Harris Highlight Show.
And you're watching the Harris Highlight Show.
And you're listening to the Harris Highlight Show. Enjoy it.
Na 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 na.
Coming to you live from the Chateau in beautiful Monrovia, California, this is the Harris Highlight Show. Joining me this week is our college football analyst, Lyle Goldstein, our executive producer, Brady Klain. I'm your host for the evening, Blake Harris. Our play-by-play man, Josh Schaefer, will be joining momentarily, so we'll be getting him on soon. But happy final day of September, boys. Tomorrow's the first day of October. It's Thursday. Normally we record on Tuesdays, but how's everyone's week up to this point?
Oh, it's phenomenal because while summer's ending, this is without question the best time in the sports calendar. So you've got NFL, you've got MLB, you've got college football, NBA's coming around the corner. I mean, best time of the year right here. So I'm doing great.
Yeah, I agree with you. You know, I'm kind of sad. You know, my season at my work just wrapped up, but now I get to enjoy all the stuff. I will wholeheartely admit I haven't been able to watch college football once in the last 3 weeks. I've been working every single Saturday. Like I have not. I've caught a few of the night games. Like I've watched the ASU games and I've watched some of the night games, but like during the day, I just follow on my phone. I cannot watch during the day, but now I'm ready to do so. It's weird. We're missing a big part of our show. Or I mean, I call him the mitochondria of our show. He's like the powerhouse of this show. So we're missing Josh. He'll be back in a little bit for the show, but I mean, short round just brought up a great point already in the comments. So
yeah,
I'm throwing it to short.
We'll build suspense.
We'll get to that. Okay.
We'll build suspense when Josh gets on as to what we got going on up here. But I love it. You know, we're doing a college football show, and Brady just says, you know, I'm the executive producer of the number one college football show on YouTube, and I have not watched a snap of college football all season. But hey, I'm here.
I've been doing some research. I've been watching highlights after the fact. I've been, you know, watching our guy Matt Barry on all his highlight shows he's been doing. So hey, work comes first. The job that pays more comes first. So now I get a transition back over to this with our off season here.
Well, props to you, Brady. And we're going to start things off with a bang right here because our man Isaac comes in with a super chat donation. And he says, what do you guys think about this? The Big Ten grabs Iowa State, West Virginia in the West, East, respectively, forcing the Big 12 to become a basketball conference and let in the Shockers. So the Wichita State Shockers, they I don't think have a football team, so they come in for basketball. I mean,
yeah they do. They not know who one of their most. Dude, they have one of the most famous coaches of all time.
Do you
know who
they
I'm
do
talking
it in
about?
football? Are you talking about in football? Are you talking about football?
Hang on. Decline that.
What are we hanging on for?
Oh, my headphones just cut out. What'd you say, Lyle? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I said, are you talking about a football coach for Wichita State?
Yes, I am.
And did he happen to maybe travel over the pond to?
I would say he did.
Sports
I would say he did.
One AFC Richmond. Are we talking about Ted Lasso?
I would say he did. We're talking about Ted Lasso.
Oh,
Ted Lasso, baby.
Well, that's a major spoiler for someone who has yet to see the show.
That's like the first
Blake,
5 minutes of the
second
first
season.
All good. We're finishing up Schitt's Creek, so that's next on our list.
Okay. Yeah, that's like the first 5 minutes of the first episode that they described that. So that's not that much of a spoiler.
I was getting confused. But yeah, guys, what are your thoughts on this? If the Big Ten poaches Iowa State and West Virginia from the Big 12?
I mean, I think the Big 12, especially if they lose these teams, with Iowa State kind of trending upward the way that they are, West Virginia's played good defense in the last couple of seasons. I mean, the Big 12 is already going to get hurt losing Texas and Oklahoma, but if they continue to have dominoes fall like this and lose some of their better teams, I mean, it's going to be hard for them to draw national respect.
Just bring in a conference realignment. Here's what you do. You have to draft conferences. So, say the conference with like the lowest overall record combined, you disassemble every conference, and then the lowest conference drafts a team. So like Alabama's your first overall pick. Then you have Georgia as like your second overall pick. So then like the MAC has Alabama, like the SWAC has Georgia. I think we just do it like that and just have, no geographical sense to any of it.
Yeah, don't make it make sense. Like we said, I think a couple weeks ago, I said, let's get UCF in the Pac-12. I mean, let's really make things weird. Let's have some 9 a.m. Pac-12 games every week. So
you can flip them with Stanford and Cal, who go to the Ivy League, right, Brady?
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
yes.
Lyle sends them to the Ivy League. So there we
go. That was
no,
Brady.
I sent him to the Ivy League.
Oh, that was Brady. That's right. Lyle was too busy bringing Eastern Washington to the Pac-12. It's rightful home.
Correct.
It's rightful home.
Got the state right.
For now. So thank you to Isaac for the super chat. Again, if you guys have any questions for us, anything you'd like to hear our thoughts on, questions, comments, concerns, dreams, aspirations, you guys can hit us up in the super chat down below, and we'll answer your guys' question. It's going to be kind of like a Q&A throughout the show. Normally we have like a Q&A near the end, but we're going to spend more time getting to your guys' college football questions. So again, for the next hour 15, whatever questions you guys have, hit us up in the super chat. We'll try to get to all of your guys' comments. But guys, let's just start this with takeaways from week 4. Not a whole lot of great action like we have this upcoming week and next week, where there are so many great college football games, but we did have a few, some really good ones, some surprising games from this past weekend. And let's just start with Clemson, because we talked about him a couple weeks ago, being scared with Clemson. I think it was last week when they struggled against Georgia Tech, and we were saying, what's the deal with this offense? Should we be worried? Should we be concerned? And I think we were kind of like right on the fence in regards to the Tigers. Well, they went into NC State. They were a 10-point favorite. They lost. I believe they only had like 10 or 11 first downs, something like that. And I believe the time of possession was like NC State 43, Clemson 17. So Clemson's now 2-2 on the season. They are barely ranked. They're coming at number 25. Playoff hopes. This isn't the 12-team playoff this year, so it looks like they ain't going to be getting into that. Just overall, guys, your thoughts on what the hell's happened with Clemson to the first month of the season, and I guess what percentage chance do you give them of striking, some sort of miracle and sneaking their way into the college football playoff? Because there hasn't been a 2-loss team that's reached the playoff yet, but if any team's going to do it, I think Clemson might get a little exception if they're close enough by the end of the season.
Ooh, I'm starting off first. I have to set the tone. This is a little different. Percent chance Clemson gets into the playoff at this point, I think it's 0. I mean, like you said, there's never been a 2-loss team that gets in, number 1. Number 2, they have not looked promising in any game they've played this season. And number 3, who are they going to play to have their strength of schedule help them out and boost themselves into the playoff at the end of the season? Because not only is Clemson awful, the entire ACC is really bad this year. So I don't think Clemson has much of a chance at all going forward to get into the playoff. They could still go to a New Year's 6 if they really turn things around fast. Wake Forest has been good for like 6 seasons, says Captain
No, Lyle, it's good.
Oh, okay, good. Air quotes around good. But this is just territory that Clemson has not been in a long time now. And they are outmatched in a lot of ways, and they are by no means one of those top 3 or 4 teams in the sport. We talked about their offensive line last week. It continues to have problems. DJ Uiagalelei continues to struggle, and they're not putting up enough points. Look, we should give credit to NC State in terms of this past weekend. I mean, Devin Leary threw for 4 touchdowns. He led them. He led them to this win, and credit to them. But when you're talking about Clemson on a national stage, this feels like either maybe it's just one-off year. Maybe it's a little bit of a downfall for a couple seasons until they kind of boost themselves back up. But this is kind of a downward trend from the Clemson we've been used to over the last couple of seasons, where, or not even last couple, but last handful, where they've had elite quarterbacks. And right now they just don't really have that, and they don't have a good offensive line either.
I'm going to quote one of a great philosopher of our time. And it's in the same conference. You're done, Clemson. quote Lyle Goldstein. Sort
They
of.
are done.
You're done, Virginia. They're
But
done.
that means
They have no
Clemson's going to win it all then next year, right?
Yeah, right. Next year.
True.
Next year.
True.
I think Lyle brought up a really good point. Is what we've seen from DJ so far this year hasn't been bad, but it has not been what everyone was expecting to see from the quarterback at Clemson, right? It's the tough thing to do is if you look at him in comparison to some of the other quarterbacks that we've seen throughout the country, similar to Sam Howell. Sam Howell was expecting, hey, he could be a Heisman frontrunner. He is a Heisman frontrunner, and now he's playing fine. DJ Uyunglele, same thing. Heisman frontrunner. This guy could win the Heisman. He's playing fine. I think there's a big thing for Clemson. I don't think it's the end of the Dabo era, as I don't even remember who said that. Someone on ESPN said it's the end of the Dabo era.
I think it was Paul Feinbaum, so take that with a
shocking.
grain of salt.
Shocking. Say Paul Feinbaum. It's not the end of the Dabo era. You still have one of the best head coaches. You have arguably the best coordinator in all of college football in Brent Venables, offensive or defensive coordinator. He is the best. And I think, you still have all these top recruits coming in. Teams get an off year. It happens. I think this is an off year for Clemson. And I'm not saying, this is the demise of Clemson for the next 10 years. No, it's an off year for Clemson. It happens. Yeah. You're still a top 5 team in the country when it's all said and done. Just what you're putting together this year isn't that.
Yeah. And really quick before Blake goes, to jump off or piggyback on what you said about DJ, I think the tough thing that a lot of fans hang on to, and I think we're guilty of this, especially when the season started, is we're hanging on to that game that he had against Notre Dame last year, where he threw for 400 yards. He carved up a defense that was really good. And people just expected he was going to walk into this season and it was going to be more of that, when the truth is it just hasn't been that.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. Lyle brings up a good point because that's what we all kind of look to. And even then when he came in against Boston College last year, he looked pretty good. I mean, it's just, he's not living up to expectations. When Clemson, you think about the last decade, Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun Watson, even Taj Boyd, where Taj Boyd wasn't an NFL quarterback at all. He was a fantastic college quarterback. So they've had some really good quarterbacks. The offense just isn't as strong as it has been in years past. But their defense, is still unreal. Their defense has still been, lights out. It's just their offense has some question marks. But yeah, like Lyle hit it, when he first talked about it, Clemson's schedule the rest of the way, which kind of benefits them. It's a bunch of cakewalks. So you would think, looking at their schedule, they're going to win out the rest of the way. But yeah, moving forward, I'll give him a 1%. I know Lyle gave him a 0%. I'll be a little generous and give him a 1% chance of reaching the college football playoff. But yeah, Clemson, I mean, they were massive favorites to win it all. I believe last I looked on FanDuel, they were 80-1 odds to win the national championship. So if you guys are feeling risky, you guys can go place a nice wager at 80-1 odds. Wonder what kind of other teams have 80-1 odds right now. So very interesting right there, guys. Other quick teams I want to get to. I want to talk about the Texas A&M Arkansas game. Texas A&M, that's a team that, all 4 of us have kind of been pretty hesitant on the last few seasons. They're definitely a good team. I don't think any of us bought into them being a national championship contending team. But, this year there were a lot of expectations for them. I believe they were ranked 5th or 6th or maybe 7th last week. Took on Arkansas, and they were outplayed all game by the Razorbacks. The Razorbacks, from the opening minutes, they were dominating the game. Texas A&M, they had no answer. I get that A&M's on their backup quarterback. They have some pieces out. But again, this is a team that had championship aspirations. They still can, luckily they're not Clemson. They still have a chance to sneak their way in because they have a pretty difficult schedule. But kind of just, a flip of the coin on each side. Just thoughts from Texas A&M, who hasn't looked good this year. Granted, a few weeks ago, they barely beat a really bad Colorado team. They struggled against Kent State in week 1. So thoughts on A&M, and I guess we'll get to Arkansas later in the show when we preview their upcoming game for this weekend. So we can stick to our quick thoughts on the Aggies, Josh's Ags from this past weekend and just the season so far.
Well, I think the reason we've been hesitant on them, especially this year, is because they just haven't done a whole lot to impress. They beat a Colorado team by 3 points. That ASU, who, I mean, again, has been a ranked team and a borderline ranked team this season. ASU took care of them no problem this past weekend. They won 10-7 against Colorado. Otherwise, they've beaten New Mexico and Kent State by a ton, but those teams aren't by any stretch tough competition to the level of A&M. And they lose to Arkansas this week. Like, they haven't done a whole lot to impress us, and they were ranked really high because they were high in the AP poll to start the year, and then haven't done a whole lot to back it up. Like you said, they're on their backup quarterback. They lost a lot of talent from the previous year. I just don't think this is the same A&M team. And frankly, I just don't think they're the 7th best team in college football.
Like Blake said at the beginning of this, this Texas A&M team has been a top 10 team, every year for the last, call it 3 or 4 years. Yet they're the least talked about top 10 team in the last 3 or 4 years.
Right.
They made such a big splash when Jimbo Fisher decided, I'm going to go to Texas A&M. And it was a big deal. Everyone was like, what can Jimbo do here? We saw what he did at Florida State. This is going to be great for both sides. And then no one even talks about Jimbo Fisher even being anywhere near the top tier of college football coaches. So they're just quietly good. I don't get it. It's one of those things where I say almost week in, week out is they are one of the best teams that no one is talking about. Yeah, they don't warrant it some weeks, like Lyle said, but no one's talking about them. Last year, they were sitting at 5 in some of the rankings, and no one was saying, hey, they're going to get in. Everyone's saying, well, maybe Cincinnati at 6, maybe Cincinnati at 7, Iowa State, all these teams at 6, 7, 8. No one cared about the team that was ranked 5th, which was shocking to me. And that was in years past, obviously. This year, they're fine. Like Lyle said, they're on their backup quarterback. But Jimbo Fisher, I think, still is one of the best coaches in college football. And you don't hear a word about him, from him, to him. You don't hear him being brought up in any conversation like that. So maybe that's a good thing for him because he's just quietly, doing great things there.
Well, he's getting paid like one of the top ones because he's making $10 million a year for the next decade or so. So
yeah, I think he's on that. I think he's on that John Gruden contract.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He's got Gruden money.
Yeah, no, it is random though with A&M because they've been consistently good for the last couple of years. Last year, again, they were literally ranked 4 or 5 for most of the season. It was kind of just, well, they're not going to be there at the end. So again, with A&M, they have a really good SEC schedule coming up. One quick one I just want to touch up on before we move on to some of our other segments, guys. Oklahoma, they won again. They are undefeated, but they needed a game-winning field goal to beat West Virginia at home. Spencer Rattler was getting booed. Fans were calling for a quarterback change mid-game. So overall, just Oklahoma, they're the favorite to come out of the Big 12, especially with Iowa State kind of pretty much out of it at this point. But they started the season ranked second. They started the season ranked, second over Clemson, Georgia, some of these other teams. I think right now they're currently 7 in the country, if I'm not mistaken. So they've slid 5 spots in the rankings by going 4-0, but they almost lost to Tulane, in week 1. Almost lost this past weekend, and I think I missed another game because there was one. Oh, Nebraska. That one wasn't as close, but I think they were only up by 7 points with 4 minutes left, maybe 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter. So, quick roundtable on the Sooners, and are they good? Is Spencer Rattler, the quarterback for them? Should they make a quarterback switch? Because I don't know what to make of the Sooners because, again, 3 really close wins. Granted, wins, but they have not looked like a top 15, top 20 team this season in college football.
No, they haven't. And let's see what they look like against Texas this upcoming weekend. Because, look, I'm not saying Texas is a playoff contender this year, but it certainly
they play
feels
Texas
like
next week.
Oh, what did I say?
You said this weekend.
Oh, sorry, next week. So they're on a bye this week then.
They play
Kansas State. Never mind.
Which is a death wish for them because they have lost, I think, to Kansas State 2 years in a row or 3 of the last 4.
Yeah, they have. So Kansas State is kind of Oklahoma's kryptonite, and then they get Texas in 2 weeks, who is not a playoff contender, but it's certainly better than the teams that Oklahoma has seen up to this point. I just don't know how anybody could put chips into this team at this point. I know West Virginia's had good defenses the last couple of years, but you're supposed to be one of the most dynamic offenses in the sport. You put up 16 points against them. You win by 7 against Nebraska, who has not had much of a pulse for a lot of this season. You barely beat Tulane, which I think we're going to come back to a lot of this season. We've talked about it every week. There are a lot of teams in college football this season that are just not very good. Like it is a very, very minute amount of schools that you can really look at this point and say, yeah, they're contenders. Oklahoma is not one of those schools. I mean, it's pretty clear. Even if they win out, even if they win the Big 12, it's pretty clear that they do not have the firepower of these other teams. And frankly, I don't think they're going to win out because they've had so many close wins that it just feels like when they play a team that matches up well with them, a loss is coming. And Rattler has not played great. The defense surprisingly has been okay, but usually those Oklahoma defenses, as we know, do not hold up. So I just feel like this is a team kind of being held together by duct tape right now. And it feels like one of these games, it's all going to come apart.
One of the things that I think what's going to happen this year, not specifically Oklahoma related, is I think this is the year we're going to see a non-Power 5 school get a shot in the playoff. And I think it's because of the demise. I say demise, I mean the current season production, not year over year over year. I think what we're going to see is the demise of, say, in Oklahoma, and say Cincinnati pulls off a win this weekend against Notre Dame. That rockets them into the playoff picture, right? That almost, I say, solidifies them, but it gives them a damn good shot to be in the playoff picture because of the struggles of an Oklahoma, of a Clemson, of other top teams that we are seeing not have great seasons. This could be the year, and I think this will be the year we're going to see a team like Cincinnati make their way to the playoff. Say they get blown out, people are going to say, oh, it's because they're not a Power 5 team. No, that's not what it is at all. At all. It's just because they'll probably get the 4 seed, play Alabama, and Alabama's Alabama. It doesn't matter who they're playing.
Right.
I think that's what we're going to see this year. And it's going to be a domino effect of this Clemson team and the domino effect of this Oklahoma team not playing up to what we have seen them and what we're expecting to see from them.
Yeah. So, I mean, this kind of segues into, the next segment that I wanted to bring up, just because Oklahoma, they look bad. They're one loss away from potentially ruining their hopes. Iowa State, their chances look shot. Texas, they might, come in, make a late push. But guys, we're, 4 weeks into the college football season. We're already 1/3 of the way. If I were to give you each $1,000 of, real money, not hypothetical money, and I said, you need to place this $1,000 on the 4 teams that you think are going to make it to the college football playoff at this point, which 4 teams would you be betting on so far after the first month?
I mean, other than Alabama and Georgia, I have no idea. Like, this is what I mean. There's no team outside of Bama and Georgia that I feel confident, like really confident in. Man, if I had to pick, man, I'm trying to think. Brady, I don't know if you have anybody that you feel like is solidified going to get in. I guess Oregon, because they beat Ohio State, and if they win the Pac-12, they're in. But really, after Oregon, I don't have a lot of faith. Like, I don't think Penn State's all that great. Iowa maybe, but they just had a scare this weekend against the team they definitely should have beat in Colorado State. I mean, they beat, but they should have beat by much more than they did. Maybe, I mean, honestly, the 4th team would probably be Arkansas, but just to see 3 SEC teams get in the grand scheme of things, maybe those are the 3 of the 4 best teams, but these SEC teams beat up on each other. So usually that doesn't end up working out. But right now, as we stand, if I had to pick 4 teams, I only feel confident about 2, Bama and Georgia. But if I had to pick the other 3, I guess it would be Oregon and Arkansas.
I'm going to go with Oregon in my 3rd team. I think the top 2 are pretty set in stone. I don't think Arkansas, just by the way, there's a good shot they're not going to be playing in the SEC championship, just because it'll be probably Alabama, Georgia. What I think we're going to see from there is I think it'll be Alabama, Georgia. I think Oregon, just to have a West Coast team in there. And as Short Round said, I'm going to, he read my mind there. Whoever wins the Big Ten, I think it's going to be Iowa this year. I think, I don't know. I'm going to say Iowa. I think what we saw, our defense and their offensive production has been tremendous so far this year. So I'm going to go Alabama, Georgia, Oregon, and then Iowa, and then maybe Cincinnati. Like I said a minute ago, this could be the year we're going to get a group of 5 team in the playoff.
So I agree that this is probably Cincinnati's best chance. The only issue with them is their one quote unquote tough game this year they played really close too. And I don't think Indiana's turned out to be what we thought they've been. I mean, they don't end up, I mean, they don't seem to be very good. So, and Cincinnati beat those guys by 6 points. Otherwise, they had 2 cakewalk games against Miami of Ohio and Murray State. So,
but then you got this
tough.
weekend coming up, which is
right. And if they win that game, right, and if they win that game, then a lot of things change. But it's just hard to put chips on a lot of teams at this point in the season.
Yeah, the tough thing for Cincinnati is like this is their best chance, this weekend against Notre Dame. If they beat Notre Dame and they're able to win out, they're probably, they should be in. Like their case is set after what they did last year, after what they did this season. Their case should be set, but it might not be just because they want to put a group of 5 team in. Yeah, I agree with Lyle, and what Brady said. I think Alabama and Georgia, those 2 teams are probably locks. Assuming that there's no chaos, they don't lose a random game we don't, foresee happening. In regards to that, like maybe, if Oregon wins out, which they should, and by the way, look at this. We had our 4th and final member here of the show, Josh Schaefer. If Oregon wins out, they should be in. They have a very easy schedule to close things out. And then, probably whoever wins the Big Ten, because it's anyone's game. I like some things I've seen from Ohio State. They've shown flashes. Iowa, Penn State, they look like good competitive teams. Luckily, next week, that'll probably eliminate one team because Iowa plays Penn State. And we jokingly have talked about it in the last few weeks, but Michigan, I mean, don't sleep on the Wolverines. If they continue to win, they continue to pull out big victories. I wouldn't be shocked if this is the year Michigan beats Ohio State. So we'll have to wait and see. Maybe some sleepers, maybe like if Notre Dame wins out, they got some pretty tough opponents coming up on their schedule. Maybe Florida, if Florida's able to take down their portion of the SEC and win the SEC title game. So we'll have to wait and see. Josh, we are talking about who, after the first month of the season, who your 4 playoff teams would be if you were given money to bet on them at this point.
Yeah, I mean, that's it's tough. First of all, can you guys hear me okay?
Vaguely.
Yeah. I hear you just fine.
That's 2 separate answers. Also,
I mean,
face, dude.
Yeah, give your answer and I'll share with what happened this week.
Okay. I think Alabama's an easy one. Georgia, like I said, I think at this point Georgia's going undefeated. I mean, I see who else beats them. You see, I think Oregon is a team that's kind of in that mix right now. I don't know if they are a top 4 team in the country. I don't know if Oklahoma's a top 4 team in the country. But given, where these teams are at right now, I think I'm going to give the edge to Oregon and Oklahoma. And the reason why is for Oregon, I don't see anybody in the Pac-12 who's going to beat Oregon because I don't think anybody else is very good at all. So, that's where I'm looking at the Pac-12. I'm so out on the Pac-12, every single team except for Oregon at this point. And then Oklahoma, because again, I mean, after, last week too, and you see Iowa State and Texas has been really hit or miss. So I don't see anybody in the Big Ten or in the Big 12 outside of Oklahoma.
There you go. So hopefully that answers Princey, not Prince's super chat. So thank you for the donation. Again, if you guys have any questions, topics, things you want to hear our opinions on, just like this one, you guys can hit us up in the super chat. We'll answer your question. But yeah, before we get to our stars and frauds of the week along with UniWatch, yeah, I'll share with you guys, what exactly went down, what midlife crisis resulted in this. So you guys don't actually know, but Lyle actually came out to Los Angeles to visit this week. And when I went to get Lyle at the airport, he said, first thing I want to do, I want to hit the gym. So I said, okay, Lyle, let's go hit the gym. So we go to the gym, and I don't know what Brady just did right there. Oh, there we go.
I want to make you the big one so we can all see your beautiful face.
Make the big one. So we go to the gym, and Lyle says, why don't we have a bench off? And I say, a bench off? Why are we going to have a bench off? And he says, let's see who can do more reps at 225. And I say, okay, Lyle. So he says, Blake, if you lose, you have to rock a mustache for the week. And I said, okay, Lyle, if you lose, you got to shave your head. Well, as you can see, I think the result in this. I go first, and I do 52 reps on the 225, and I look at Lyle, and I say, Lyle, listen, I don't want to embarrass you in front of the 30 people that are watching. I'll just rock the mustache to save yourself the embarrassment after I pounded 52 reps on this. So I took one for the team. I'm rocking the stash, and Lyle gets to keep his beautiful head of hair. Isn't that right, Lyle?
Yeah, a courageous act, some might call it.
Blake, I'm going to admit, I've read some of the work that you've written for True Blue LA and for the Dodgers, and that right there was the best story you've ever told.
I'm great at improv. That's the one thing that I got going for me. I can improv anything, anywhere, anytime. So if you guys don't believe that story, well, I was shaving this week and I went to my girlfriend. I said, "How do you like this?" And she says, "No balls, you keep that." And well, I said, "We'll see about that." And I've been rocking it for about 4 days. And guys, it's like when I rocked it with when I was Gardner Minshew when we dressed up about a year or two ago. The old Blake might never return because this might be what you're seeing on a week-to-week basis moving forward.
Dude, you look like Josh. First of all, you're muted, and I can fit in my insult. Blake, you look like Tom Selleck's ugly stunt double.
Yeah. Hey, I'll take that. Tom Selleck is an American icon.
Josh, what were you
He's got
saying?
a lovely voice, I'll tell you that.
Josh, do you see those commercials that run with him all the time out here for whatever that old person program is?
No, what?
Because they're running all the time. He does commercials for some old person program that run like every day out here. I don't know.
Wow.
Hi, I'm Selleck, and I'm old.
There you go. Guys, before we move on, we got one final super chat. This comes from Isaac. I believe was the first one at the beginning of the show. Take out the usual teams in the Big Ten, such as the Ohio States, Michigan State, Iowa, Penn State. Do you think there's any dark horse that grabbed the ship?
No.
So Big Ten championship, I assume?
Yeah, I assume he's talking about. Yeah, do you think there's any dark horse that might grab the ship? I assume he's talking about in the Big Ten for the Big Ten title. So we'll have Isaac, write down in the comments down below if that's what he's talking about. If he is, do you think there's any dark horse that can come out of the Big Ten?
No.
I don't really see any either.
Maryland, maybe. Maybe. If Talia keeps playing as well as he has, Maryland, maybe.
Yeah, I think Maryland actually might be the low-key best answer because if they beat Iowa this week, they'll probably jump to the top 15. I don't know what their schedule looks like the rest of the way, but they'll definitely have to play some more ranked opponents. So, yeah, I guess if there's going to be any dark horse to come out of the Big Ten, I think it's going to be Maryland. So, all right, guys, let's move to our Uni Watch first before we get to our stars and our frauds of the week. Josh, since you just joined us, we'll be nice and we'll let you kick things off with your Uni Watch. You took the easy route.
I did.
You took the easy route, but that's okay because these are still fantastic.
Yeah, I went with Arizona State. The NHL and Adidas had reverse retro jerseys this past year. The LA Kings had the nicest ones. And another team that I follow pretty closely when they did the football versions, Arizona State, they've got the nicest ones. And I'm sorry. I love Adidas. I love my cream and crimson, the Indiana Hoosiers.
Yes.
My God, every other Adidas reverse retro for college football was absolutely atrocious. And these ASU ones are gorgeous. So ASU came out looking pretty good in the reverse retro. And then to tie it all together, you get the classic Sparky helmet. You got to love it. And they actually, for the first time this year, look pretty good on the field too.
I just noticed this too. Keep this picture up. The ASU on the pants is like the chopped off ASU logo.
Yeah, like the retro one.
I didn't realize it. Yeah. Big fan of that.
Lyle, sorry, this was the best pick I was able to get for yours.
It's all right. I don't know. I saw these and I like these Old Dominion uniforms. I mean, they're kind of like North Carolina. I guess I like the white helmets with the crowns on the side. But yeah, the sky blue, the Tar Heel-ish blue mixed in with the white. I just think they did a really good job with them.
All right, these are mine. The Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. Dude, they went black on black, and there's just something about this, but the chrome helmet with the red stripe really ties it all together. The one thing I do not like is that the logo on the helmet is reversed of the logo on the chest.
Oh.
So like it's the different direction. But that's just because they do that on the helmet to make it so it's going the same way. Big fan of this one. Big fan of the I'm not going to call it scarlet because it's not. I'm going to call it red and gray on a black jersey. It's a really clean look. Was going to do Oregon. Theirs were pretty good, but Western Kentucky Hilltoppers, you took it for me this week.
Yeah, no, the Oregon helmets were definitely, I think, some of the best they've
Yeah.
ever dun. Unis I thought were okay. I'm doing Purdue just because you guys know I am an absolute hoe for old throwback unis like this. These throwback unis, they're simple, they're basic, but the numbers, I mean, these are numbers that every team had like in the 90s. So I think those are fantastic. So those were
I will jump in and say this. Purdue has one of my favorite uniforms, not these ones, but the ones that they wear, I think once or twice a year. They wore them against Ohio State a few years ago, but with the railroad spikes going down the middle of the helmet are some of my favorites there. I gave props to Purdue for something. Look at that.
Yeah, Brady does almost on a week-to-week basis. We know deep down he loves them.
Yeah, right.
He's just going to undo his shirt, and it's just going to be a Purdue shirt. All right, guys, let's get to our frauds of the week. The "You're Done, Virginia." I was like waiting for it to be an actual Purdue shirt for some reason.
God, no, I've known nothing Purdue.
Josh, we'll throw it to you first. Now, you generously said you're not going to spend, 25 minutes on your fraud of the week like you did the last time. We're cutting you down to 20 minutes this week, so hopefully you got your essay written in. But who is your biggest fraud of the week?
Well, I flamed Arizona State last week, and that was probably like a 4-minute rant at least. So I think I need not 20 minutes. I'll ask for 20 seconds this week. USC, you're my fraud of the week. You're absolutely terrible. You are horrible at football. And you know what? It makes no sense because here comes another disagreement for people in the comments probably. Don't care. This is a fact. They have a top 5 roster in college football for talent. Top 5 every year. Their coaching staff, and I'm going to throw Clay Helton in there too. Coaching staff. The resume, top 5 in college football. You're losing at home by double digits to Stanford and to Oregon State while going into the games as double-digit favorites. Can't happen. I'm looking at the rest of the season. I'm trying to figure out where the wins are coming. Like, honestly, because they're not beating Notre Dame. They're not beating UCLA. They're not beating BYU. They're not beating Arizona State. That's 4 more losses right there. This is a 6-6 team at best. USC, you're my fraud of the week.
There you go.
Every single person.
I still have this little timer here. I don't even know how it got there, but hey, it can come in handy for times when Josh is getting too out of control when we need him to settle down. But well done, Josh.
But Blake asks questions where it takes legit 3 minutes for him to ask a question to the point where no one else on the show remembers what the question was.
Hey, man, when you got so many experts here and an executive producer, you got to spend the time. All right, Lyle, who are you exposing this week?
I think one we already touched on a little bit, but Texas A&M. Look, this is not one of the 7 best teams in college football. Like we said a couple weeks ago, they beat a Colorado team by 1 score that ASU handled, and ASU, per the rankings, they deem significantly worse than Texas A&M. And otherwise, A&M has played a couple of just cupcake teams at the start of their schedule. So that's number one. Number 2, I think, has to be Wisconsin at this point. And look, I'll continue to say this. I don't think Notre Dame is that great either. Like, this team is significantly worse than a couple of the teams they've had in years past. But the downfall of Graham Mertz and just where Wisconsin started the year in terms of their expectations to where they are now, it's not good. It's not good at all. So Wisconsin would be team number 2.
So I don't know how to describe this. Mine is not really this week, but it's a culmination of a few weeks. And mine is the non-conference scheduling that Rutgers had at the beginning of the year. Rutgers, you have Temple, Syracuse, and Delaware to start the year. You're riding on a high. You're going great. You're 3-0. You're going to make a bowl game. Your 3 games in a row now are Michigan, Ohio State, and Michigan State. I might call myself a fraud for saying Rutgers could go 6-6 and win a bowl game, considering they play Ohio State, Michigan State, and Penn State all the rest of this year. I don't know if Rutgers can go 6-6 and win a bowl game. So my fraud of the week might be myself for calling Rutgers a great team, and putting them in a bowl contention. I still think they will. Rutgers proved me wrong. But I myself am fraud of the week also myself for not two things. One, not watching any college football for the first 3 weeks because of work. And two, for turning down tickets to go to the USC game. I would have loved to see history made. Like Oregon State winning there for the first time since 1960. That would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Fraud.
Yeah.
I like it. Brady's his own fraud. The best.
Yes.
That'd be I love it. I got two frauds. They're going to be teams that I had as playoff sleepers entering the year. The first is Iowa State. I think they're the bigger fraud because this was the biggest season in Iowa State history, the most hyped season. I believe they sold more season tickets than they ever had before. Talent-wise, this is probably the best team they've ever had. Expectations-wise, I think it was the first time they ever started the season in the top 10. And now they're 2-2. They're unranked. They're likely not going to be in the Big 12 title game. So Iowa State, you're a fraud. My next one, North Carolina. I know we talked about it week one, how Virginia Tech upset them and shocked them. They did lose a lot of talent this offseason, but we still thought North Carolina, they might make things a little interesting with Clemson for the ACC title game. And North Carolina, yeah, you're unranked as well. You're 2-2. You're a fraud. So my playoff sleepers are not looking great. Sam Howell, your draft stock is not ideal right now, but we'll have to wait and see, guys. We'll now move to our stars of the week. Players, teams we're not going to expose, teams that will, shed light on and praise for what they did this week.
So my star of the week is Jacob Panasiuk from Michigan State. This is a player.
It sounds like a hockey name.
It does sound like a hockey name. Jacob Panasiuk is a player that has appeared on Michigan State's roster for years. It's a name that's been on their roster for years because his brother played there too. And not only is Michigan State 4-0, but he's having some more dominant performances this year. They beat Nebraska 23-20 in overtime this week in East Lansing. Michigan State is ranked, and the defense is led by Panasiuk. He was credited with, I want to say, a pair of sacks, 2 more TFLs this last week against Nebraska. But here's the stat that's staggering. He was credited with 12 QB hurries officially. He was in the backfield on almost half of Martinez's dropbacks this week. Not Michigan State, Panasiuk. And I think that's a pretty remarkable number for him and for a team that I don't think a lot of people were expecting much from this year. I was last year, and I was fraud of the week every week for thinking Michigan State was going to be decent last year, and they were not. So there were some other pretty notable stars of the week for me and big-time performances, but this is a player that I've noticed quite a bit the last couple of years. Called 2 Michigan State games against ASU with him on the roster, and he did not do much. His brother was pretty good. So I did want to highlight him and get some of these defensive linemen mentioned on the show because obviously, like a Heisman Award, we're typically going for the big-time offensive performances or the guys who finish with like 30 tackles and 3 interceptions. And I know we all did that a couple times last year, but impressive game, even though not all of it shows up on the stat sheet. So Jacob Panasiuk from Michigan State.
It's always good to get a defensive guy in there for sure. I went with Treylon Burks as my star of the week. And this is a guy that I think I talked about at the start of the year, saying this is one of the best wide receivers in college football. And in Arkansas's biggest game of the year to date, this past weekend against A&M, he grabbed 6 balls for 167 yards and a touchdown. And he showed every reason why he's one of the best receivers in the sport. And I think you'll see him go pretty high come April. And I think if Arkansas stays relevant, he's going to be a huge reason why.
Not only did he get 6 passes, they only had 9 total completed passes.
Yeah.
So,
and and you see who gets targeted on that team for sure. So, yeah.
That's the thing, though, is circling back is how do you see Arkansas succeeding while only throwing the ball 6 times or 9 times? You really don't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, at least.
Yeah,
so my star of the they could, but I don't see it. My star of the week. Oh, damn, short round, dude. You're on it.
No, man, you're stealing from short round.
I said it before the show. My star of the week, Jameson Williams from Alabama. Only caught 1 pass on offense, and it was an 81-yard touchdown. Why he gets my star of the week? 3 kick returns, for 177 yards, 2 touchdowns. They touched the ball 4 times and had 3 touchdowns. That's called efficiency, my friends. Efficiency. Jameson Williams, you are my star of the week.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely absurd that he did that. My star of the week is going to go to a team. It's going to go to the Georgia Bulldogs because there were reports that Georgia, last year they had their game against Vanderbilt canceled. They were supposedly very upset that, Vanderbilt canceled that game. Georgia needed that game. And, Georgia came out, and I believe they're up 35-0 at the end of the first quarter. Normally in college football, you don't see really teams, put their foot on the throat like that too much. Maybe 35-0 at the end of the half, but 35-0 at the end of the first quarter. I believe Georgia, won the game 62 or 63-0. They scored more touchdowns than Vanderbilt had first downs. So they took that personal last year when Vanderbilt canceled their game. They didn't forget it, and they gave him the shaft. So,
yes.
Well, props to you, Georgia. Way to give that shaft. Do you guys want to hop into our Q&A right now? Unless there's any,
of course.
Unless
Can
there's any
you guys
other...
hear me?
Yeah,
you guys hear me all right?
Yeah,
I
it's like
switched
phone
switched
audio,
headphones.
but it's like phone audio, but you're fine. We can hear you.
Yeah, you were
Is it
fine. The only
bad?
thing was there was like a wrestling sound, or I don't know what it was. There was like a wrestling sound coming from your end, but it sounds like it's fixed now.
Now?
So yeah, now
It's better now.
No, you're good now.
Okay.
There was before. So you're good to go. So again, if you guys have any college football related questions, let us know down in the chat below. Could be for anything from this past weekend, this upcoming weekend. Again, earlier we were talking about our playoff teams that someone was asking our thoughts on conference realignments that Josh missed. Josh, I think we had a super chat earlier asking, what about West Virginia and Iowa State transferring over to the Big Ten? And we had some thoughts on it. We had some thoughts on it.
Interesting.
All right, guys. Our first question comes from Stexon92. This kind of goes back to what we were talking about a little earlier, but we can throw in some dark horses because I don't think we were talking about teams who might be little sleepers that can get in, but I think he's asking for dark horse. So who are some dark horses that can make the playoffs? Some teams that might be ranked like 15 and on that can just go on a winning streak and slide their way into the college football playoff.
I've got one.
15 and on, I'm not sure.
15 and on, I don't think so, but I've got one, and it's weird to say they're a dark horse, but Ohio State. I think Ohio State's sitting at 10 or 11 right now. Say they go out and have only one loss, win the Big Ten, and there they are. I think Ohio State could. Weird saying, Ohio State could be a dark horse for the playoffs.
That was mine too, and I cannot stress this enough. Like I've said earlier today, and I've said the last couple of weeks, you can't trust anybody in college football this year. So it's hard to pick a dark horse when almost every single team not named Alabama and Georgia has very, very clear flaws. So if I had to pick one, I guess it's Ohio State. But it like Josh said, from 15 and on especially, it's really hard to pick.
Yeah, it's weird because I think you guys are right. Like dark horse, and it's a weird year for college football. So we've also been saying it's a weird year for like 2 years now. But now this is not just a weird year, but no one's good. So other than I think Alabama and Georgia. So if I'm going the dark horses, and I'm going to stay away from the Clemsons and the Notre Dames and whoever. I think it's tough to pinpoint one. I don't know if I'd say Oregon's a dark horse anymore, just because I don't think anybody else is very good. Maybe Ole Miss. I mean, if you beat Alabama this week, I think you're looking pretty good. I don't think they do, but I mean that's one that I think people have been talking about a little bit, and that's an interesting one. And then I don't know. I think Cincinnati is in a pretty decent spot at the moment too.
Yeah, Josh took mine. I was going to go with Ole Miss. Josh, I literally have my Google Doc secure, so I don't know how you gained access this week.
Funnier every week.
Hey man, eventually after about 4 or 5 years, the joke will be funny. I like Ole Miss just because, they are a dark horse. I don't know if they beat Alabama this week, but they have the best offense in the country. I mean, they are clicking on all cylinders, and their defense has, they're not top 10 by any means, but if their defense can hold teams to, 28 points or less, this is an offense that can score at will. And, they do play Alabama, they play Arkansas the following week, Auburn, Texas A&M. They even have a non-con game against Liberty, which is a pretty difficult non-con game later in the season. So I got them as a potential sleeper. Another team I'm going to throw on here just because I see we got Michael in the chat talking about Florida being a dark horse. I'll throw some love to the Gators as well. The Gators, they hung around with Alabama a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. They only lost by 2 points. They didn't get the 2-point conversion. I've liked what I've seen from Florida so far this season. I think they've been, a very slept-on team. I wrote them off after all the talent they lost in the offseason. But looking at, Florida's schedule the rest of the way, they have very winnable games. The only game that's a question mark, which is going to be the game of the year for them, is at the end of October when they have to take on Georgia. Aside from that, looking at their schedule, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, LSU, South Carolina, Samford, Missouri, Florida State. If the Florida Gators can win out, get that win over Georgia, which is definitely possible, they'll be in the SEC title game, and all of a sudden you just got to take down Alabama. You're in the college football playoff. So definitely do not sleep on the Gators. Josh, I don't know what this question means, so I'll throw it to you. Thoughts on Brentford and the Red Devils?
Oh man, Brentford. I think I saw someone that I know covering the Brentford game this weekend, so that's interesting.
Is this soccer?
Of all teams, Brentford. It is.
Okay.
My Red Devils with a huge win over Villarreal in the Champions League yesterday. Viva Ronaldo. It's an interesting time for Manchester United because they've lost a couple in a row. Still got that super long win streak, or not win streak, but non-losing streak in the Premier League for road games. So we're united through and through. We're still coming for it this year. And Ronaldo, and he's good. If you guys didn't know already.
I did know, so
He's very good.
I appreciate it. Joe Wilson, guys, thoughts
He's also
on the quarterback?
ripped.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Thoughts on the quarterback situation at Ohio State? Last week they gave CJ Stroud a rest. I think they officially gave him some injury designation, but I think the reports were they were just resting him against Akron. And Kyle McCord, granted, it's against Akron, so take it with a grain of salt. Completed 13 of 18 passes, 320 yards, 2 touchdown passes. CJ Stroud, he was another guy that had, I think he was top 5 in Heisman discussion entering the season, top 5 in odds. He's looked meh so far to start the season. If you're the Buckeyes, I don't know why that's playing right now. If you're the Buckeyes, do you consider a change of quarterback after what you saw from McCord this past weekend, or do you write it out with Stroud thinking he's the guy that we, in fact, want to try to lead us to the college football playoff?
I don't know. I think it's kind of tough. Like it's only been a couple of games. I think you need to. I think this is a tough thing for a coach to do mid-season. The way that I'm looking at it is, are they actually a legitimate college football playoff contender? I don't think so. I think they're a good team, but I'm not sure if they're there right now, just because I don't think anybody other than Alabama is. But 4 games. Are we really making a quarterback change like that? That's the only thing I consider. Is, are you really going to be making a quarterback change at this point?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'd probably stick with Stroud, despite how good McCord looked. But there's a third guy we're not even talking about, and it's Quinn Ewers.
The $1 million man?
Yeah. I think that's basically the reason he reclassified to this year, is so he could make money off NIL and just be in college. But what happens after this year? Because I don't know enough about McCord yet to say whether he should be a definite starter everywhere or not. But at least with Ewers, who was one of the best quarterback recruits ever, if Stroud locks down this job, then what? Because, if hypothetically he the transfer portal because he's not playing this year, that would have to be one of the most sought after transfer quarterbacks maybe ever. It's like a Justin Fields situation, except he'd be going away from Ohio State. So I don't know, that I might be looking too far down the road. I'd stick with Stroud for now, but Ohio State, they've kind of got an interesting predicament on their hands with 3 really good quarterbacks down the road.
Now, Lyle, what happened when Georgia didn't stick to Justin Fields and they let him walk?
Well, it was a mistake. So maybe they should give Ewers a shot. I mean, it can't hurt to at least let him get in a couple games this year. So at least you know what you have, because with the new rule over the last couple of years of you can play 4 games or less and still keep your eligibility. So if I were Ohio State, at least in blowouts, I would get Ewers out there at some point.
I think we will see that. And what a problem for them to have, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh no, we have 3 really good quarterbacks. What are we gonna do now? I think we will see Ewers at some point this season for a quarter, for a few series. Where he's not going to play a whole game unless drastic things happen to the rest of the quarterbacks. I think Stroud keeps the starting job for the rest of the year, unless something out of his control happens. I think whether it be an injury, whether it be who knows what, but I think Stroud keeps a job at least for the next few weeks moving forward. But Lyle, you bring up a really good point: is why not just see what you have in Ewers in an in-game situation instead of just practice? So get him in a few blowout wins, blowout losses, whatever it may be. Get him in at some point. So I think Ohio State finds himself in a pretty good place. Ryan Day just has a difficult decision to make, because whichever one ends up third string, I think you see them walking after, or maybe next year.
Yeah, Jack Miller came in for, I think he played a good amount of snaps. He's another
him too.
Solid quarterback. So they got 4 really good quarterbacks. All we need now is Arch Manning to commit to Ohio State to just make this whole. But he's 2023, right? He's not 2022.
Yeah, I think
So
he's 20. He's 23.
23, 24.
I thought he was 23.
Yeah,
Am I wrong?
So he won't be there next year, to put it lightly. All right, guys, we'll move to our pick'ems right now. Short round, if you're out there, save your question for the end so we can hit your question at the end of pick'ems. Guys, we're going to pick'ems now because there are a few games that I highlighted when I sent it to the group chat earlier. Some games that I do think we can go a little more in depth on just because they have major conference implications and major playoff implications. So we'll get to those later when we get to them. But guys, here's the look at the pick'ems leaderboard from last week. Take a good look, guys, because we got chaos coming up. The updated pick'em leaderboard, we have a 4-way tie. Yep, Lyle is in last place. I still am in first place. Thank you very much. Sorry, Brady, you're in third. Josh, you are in second. So a nice comeback there by you guys. We have a 4-way tie. No, it's not.
You put the wrong one up before, didn't you?
No, so this was last week. This was going into last week.
Oh.
How they looked.
I did not read it.
And now after this week, boom.
All right.
So
how about Lyle getting 9 games? All right, hang on. How about Lyle getting 9 games? Come on.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
For Lyle.
That's pretty impressive.
Blake got the fewest picks right this last week.
It was not a good week. I went with a lot of upsets that did not happen. But I did get a few upsets that did happen, so they balance each other out. All right, guys, let's kick things underway. We got some beautiful action tomorrow night. Number 5, Iowa at Maryland. We talked about this game earlier. What do you think happens?
It's interesting. I'm taking Iowa. I do think that Maryland makes this a pretty interesting game by halftime, but I think ultimately Iowa's better and they pull away.
I agree. And Iowa did not look that great last week against Colorado State, but they have had some good games in weeks past, at least at the start of the year. And against Maryland, I think they'll take care of business even if it stays close for a half, so I'll take Iowa.
Agreed. I'm going to go 3 for 3. I think Iowa gets the win here this weekend or Friday night.
Yeah, Friday night. A lot of people got Iowa an upset watching this one. It's going to be a Friday night game. Our buddy Sean is actually going to be at this game tomorrow night.
Nice. Live correspondent?
Yes. Our live correspondent. We're gonna cut to him for next week's coverage. I like the Terps. I think Talia Tagovailoa, I think he can really cement his Heisman case. But this Iowa defense is so good. I mean, they are literally one of the best in all of college football. I read that stat, I think, last week that haven't allowed under 25 points or more than 25 points since like 2016. I think it was like to Nebraska or something. So I'm going to go with Iowa in this one. Texas at TCU.
I'm going to take Texas here, guys. You don't mess with Texas, especially when the other team they're playing is also from Texas. So I think that's the same. But I'm going to go with the Longhorns here. That Arkansas loss, not looking too bad. Not looking too bad. And considering they scored 1,000 points last week, and Thompson was going to be my star of the week. But I decided to go with a wild card pick to honor my Dodgers, my wild card Dodgers, and decided to go with Panashu. But Thompson had a really, really impressive week. Texas looked really good last week, not totally defensively, but offensively. And I think they do it again. Maybe not to that extent, but I think they put some points on the board against TCU this week.
Yeah, I'm going to take Texas this week. I mean, I think their offense has had some good weeks, maybe outside of the Arkansas game. And, I think they'll take care of TCU.
I'm also going to go with Texas. I think this is a bounce back game for them. They need a good one. I think this is going to show Sark's progress as a head coach in college football. So I think this is going to be a good game for them, and I think Texas will get the win.
Yeah, as Josh said, that Arkansas loss isn't looking too bad now for the Longhorns. They've looked good. I mean, ever since they made the switch to Casey Thompson at quarterback, this has been a much better team. TCU always plays Texas tough, but I'm going to go with the Longhorns. Number 14, Michigan. Man, are they climbing up those rankings. Now, Josh, I think if they win this week, your prediction might be no more, unless there's one more to spare. I forget what exactly it was, but they go on the road to Camp Randall and take on the Badgers, who are coming off a nice 30-point loss at the hands of Jack Cohn and Notre Dame.
I got to be honest, guys. I have a really bad feeling about this game for Michigan. But what we learned – so I think going into Camp Randall is tough. It always is. Well, I guess it isn't always, because for a while that place was dead. They just did some special on ESPN last week about how it was dead all the time. But, in the last 20, 30 years, it's wild. I think it's a tough place to play. I'm not super sold on Michigan, like I said last week, but I've been really impressed with what they're doing, even considering how weak the schedule has been up to this point, and that includes Washington. Our Pac-12. It's a little bit scary for me. I really think that Wisconsin makes this interesting, but it is so hard to pick Graham Mertz and Wisconsin after watching that absolute disaster of a football game last week against Notre Dame. So I'm taking Michigan on the road this week.
Yeah, I'm going to take Michigan too. I had Wisconsin as a fraud team this week. They clearly just don't really have it this year. And I don't think Michigan's phenomenal, but I do think they have enough to take down Wisconsin, so I'm going to go Michigan.
I'm going to go Michigan as well, but this is going to be a Big Ten battle. It's going to be like 24 combined points or some crazy shit like that. So I'm going Michigan.
Yeah, guys, I have an announcement to make.
I knew it.
The great Bo Nix, who we all love so much, I no longer think that he is the worst quarterback in college football. That honor now has to go to Graham Mertz, because, my God, this has to be one of the worst attempts of playing the position I have seen in my lifetime of watching the game. He threw a touchdown pass this weekend, which I believe was his second touchdown pass going back over his last 8 or 9, 10 games. The dude is awful. If it wasn't for Wisconsin's defense being fantastic, this would be a 4-5 win team at the absolute best. Michigan scares me, but they don't have Graham Mertz. So for that reason and that reason alone, I'm going to take the Wolverines in this game. Some ACC action, some quietly good ACC action. I believe Wake Forest is one of 2 undefeated teams currently in the ACC. Captain Rob, shout out to your Demon Deeks. Number 24 at Wake Forest hosting Louisville.
As much as I want to pick ranked Wake Forest this week at home, I'm going to take Louisville on the road. they've been kind of hit or miss for me, performance-wise this year, and I guess last year too. But I like them on the road this week to go to Wake and get the win.
I'm going to take Wake Forest at home. I like the Demon Deacons this week.
Ooh.
I'm going to go
I
Wake
think that's
Forest
their
at
first
home
different
too.
pick.
Yeah, I think it is too. But I'm going to go Wake Forest at home too. You know, I don't know why I'm feeling this is an upset picking Wake Forest against anybody, but you know, I'm going to go with Wake Forest. It's not, but it feels like it.
Sorry, Captain Rob, but I'm going to go with Louisville. I think they got a really good offense. They've been coming around. You know, their first loss was, I believe, week 1 to Ole Miss, who put up 50 or something on them, but they've bounced back nicely since then. So I got the Cardinals in that one. Number 6, Oklahoma, going to Manhattan this weekend. Manhattan, Kansas, taking on Kansas State, which again, I don't have the number in front of me. I think they've lost 2 in a row to Kansas State, maybe 3 of the last 4. They struggle with Kansas State, and they got to go on the road to face them.
You know, that's actually something that I said in our Big 12 preview at the beginning of the year, and it was that my game to watch this year, or one of my games to watch this year, is not the Texas-Oklahoma. It's not the Iowa State-Oklahoma, whatever. It's Oklahoma going to Kansas State. I think this is a very close game. I think it is a very scary game for Spencer Rattler and OU. I think they win, and I think it comes down to the final drive of the game.
I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to pick Kansas State to win this one.
Yes.
Look, and I feel like when we get these type of games, I don't go out on a limb that much. But Oklahoma has just, like I said earlier before Josh joined, this team has just been duct taped together through the first few weeks of the season, and it feels like they're hanging on by a dear thread. Kansas State seems to have their number, at least in past years, and this Oklahoma team just isn't as good as some of the others they've had. I think Kansas State wins this game at home. So give me Kansas State in the Little Apple.
I like it.
Yes. Kansas State has won 2 in a row. They won in 2020, 38-35, and they won in 2019, 48-41. There's your information. Blake, the last 2 years.
Thank you, Brady.
However, I do think Oklahoma wins this one. I think this is what we're going to see is I think Spencer Rattler is going to come out real pissed off, real cocky, and play what I think will be the best game of his career so far. And it is a proven game of his career because of what happened last week, being booed at home, having, your own crowd chanting for the backup quarterback. I think he's going to come out and ball out. Don't mark my words on that. Don't hold me to it. I just have a gut feeling that can happen. I'm going to go Oklahoma.
Yeah, as if Oklahoma hasn't just been blessed with amazing quarterback play the last 5, 6, 7 years, because come on. I think Oklahoma wins the game, but I think Kansas State covers. I think the spread is 11. I think Kansas State keeps it within 1 score, but I'll go with Oklahoma barely. But again, this is just one of those matchups where for whatever reason, the other team just has the advantage. Number 21 Baylor at number 19 Oklahoma State. Battle of 2 random undefeated teams in the Big 12 that I'm sure we all saw coming entering the season.
These are the type of games where I usually ride with Oklahoma State, and I am not going to do that this time. I'm taking Baylor on the road for my 6th consecutive road victory in our pick'ems this week.
Yeah, I think Baylor continues to roll after a good win last week, and I like them over Oklahoma State.
I don't like doing what Josh did and pick 6 straight road games, and I haven't, and I'm not going to. And for that reason, you know what? No, not for that reason. I don't have a reason. I'm picking Oklahoma State because why, Lyle?
I was waiting for it. Because why not?
Because why not? Oklahoma State.
I don't know what to make of this game. I don't know how good or
Hang
bad.
on. The lighting and the way Blake is sitting right now makes me feel really uncomfortable.
Yeah, I do not like that. I think the mustache has a lot to do with it, though.
How's that?
Oh, lovely.
Don't worry, boys. It'll be gone next week. Per I'm sure my girlfriend's request. I'm going to go with Oklahoma State at home. Just, I don't know. They're at home. They're favored, so let's roll with that one. Number 22, Auburn at LSU. Guys, I don't know if you heard this. There is quarterback drama at Auburn. Bo Nix isn't the guaranteed starter anymore. They're debating whether or not they want it to be TJ Finley. We have a quarterback battle at Auburn. It took them long enough, but imagine, guys, how good would Auburn be if they still had Malik Willis?
Probably pretty good.
Yeah.
Very.
Yeah, it was just not very impressive from Auburn last week. I, again, have not been very impressed with LSU this season. But given how weak Auburn looked last week against Georgia State, I'm not super confident in that pick, especially with people calling for a quarterback change, which we have been calling for 2.5 years. I'm going to take LSU at home this week. It's my first win for a home team in the Pick'ems this week. So let's see if I go back to the road one next week. But I've got Go Tigers over War Eagle Tigers.
Yeah, I'm going to take LSU. I have not been impressed with Auburn this season at all. I know LSU's had its ups and downs. They can have points where they look pretty deadly on offense, and they have a receiver like Keyshawn Boutte who's looked really good at times. So I'm going to take LSU.
I was talking to a guy who actually just recently experienced his very first game at Death Valley at LSU, and he said it was one of the coolest places he's ever watched a college football game. And he held up this. He held up the L. I'm holding up the L too. I'm going to go with LSU at home because they're going to hold up a W instead of holding up an L at the end of the game. Letters, they're hard.
Yeah. This one's easy. I'm going to go with LSU. Ironically enough, if it's TJ Finley who starts, I believe he transferred this offseason from LSU. But guys, can we just quickly talk about the fact that Auburn, who was ranked 23 last week, we're down by 12 at home to Georgia State at the half, needed a touchdown with 40 seconds left to take the lead over Georgia State. And they move up a spot. Make it make sense. Someone, please. Josh, Lyle, make it make sense to me, please.
I got it.
And Brady, someone.
First of all, so kind of like a couple weeks ago, how we were saying that ASU should have been receiving more votes than they were, and U of A was receiving votes, and people were like, "Oh, it was entering Arizona instead of Arizona State." No, you don't know the difference. That's what that is. Along those same lines, I'm not trying to call anybody out. Not trying to insult anybody. I think there are a lot of AP poll voters, specifically on the East Coast, that simply do not watch all the games. So they look at a box score, which is what we say all the time. You look at a box score, you vote to see who won, and they're moving up in the rankings, which is why that happens all the time with Auburn, which is why they see, oh, UCLA beat LSU, might as well go from unranked to first in the nation, and then they do that. And then it's like, oh, wait, UCLA lost last week? Unranked. And I know that UCLA wasn't unranked, but like we do that all the time without watching any of these games. So sorry, AP poll voters on the East Coast, not trying to call you out. But you've been called out at JoshShaker25 on Twitter. Feel free to follow and take it up with me. You don't watch the games.
Are you sure said East Coast voters are on the East Coast and watching the games? For all we know, if they've got all this info and keep talking about Arizona, they could be washed athletes trying to take a second shot at glory and heading on their way to Tucson for a little workout down at Wildcat Stadium or whatever it's called. For a little open tryout, maybe they're busy down in Tucson.
If you didn't see our tweet this past week, U of A is literally holding open tryouts on campus because they are so horrifically bad at the sport of football.
Who lost our fantasy football league last year? Well, Lyle dropped out of it. So who lost our big fantasy football league? Because they should be required to go try out. They should be required to go try out.
That would be fantastic. Makes the team. Guys, crap, I made the team. What am I supposed to do? Well, sorry, that's your punishment.
Start.
Can't we just see Jordan be the new
start? Yeah, so gets drafted in the NFL because he went to a tryout, and well, the rest is history. All right, guys, we get to the good ones right here. This one, major playoff implications. Number 7, Cincinnati at number 9, Notre Dame.
This is a fun one, obviously. I'm very close to picking Notre Dame, but this gives off Cincinnati team of destiny vibes to me. I think Cincinnati goes in, and this is another one that I think once again comes down to the final drive. One way or another, I think Cincinnati wins at South Bend. It's another road team, too.
Do you want me to go, Al, or do you want to go?
It's all right. I'll go. I'm going to go with Cincinnati too. And I know this is back-to-back weeks. I picked against Notre Dame. This will be interesting because Marcus Freeman, Notre Dame's defensive coordinator, came a year ago from Cincinnati. So I'll be interested to see what type of game plan he has going in because obviously he knows these guys pretty well. I think it's going to be tough because I still don't think Notre Dame is all that amazing. It's just about how good is Cincinnati. Are they a team of destiny or are they a team that squeaked by an Indiana team that isn't that great? I think there's a lot we're going to learn in this game. I'm going to take Cincinnati. I think it's close. I think it's a really exciting game, but I'm going to take the Bearcats by 1 score.
I'm also going to go Cincinnati on the road. I'm trying to get up to this game actually, so fingers crossed. Like Lyle said in weeks past, there's one game that scares him for Notre Dame all season long, and it was this one. And I think that's right. There was a quote that came out, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, from Desmond Ritter, and he said Luke Fickell was telling him how loud it actually gets. And Desmond Ritter said, yeah, it'll be pretty quiet by halftime, though. And so that's a baller mentality. Like, that's a hell of a quote by Desmond Ritter. And when I saw that, I'm thinking, I'm picking Cincy. Like, they could get blown out, but that quote and the way he said it, I'm all in. I'm going Cincy.
Yeah, I mean, this is a huge matchup for them because we talked about it, especially last year. You know, they didn't really have that marquee win that could get them to the playoff. This is it. I mean, if you're Cincinnati, you finish the season undefeated. You go on the road to Notre Dame, who's ranked number 9 in the country. And if you can knock them off, there's no reason why Cincinnati should be held out of the playoff. If they lose, well, then they know their shot is done. And it's going to be bad luck where, well, you see what happens when you put them against, a really good team in the season. So I think they're going to be fired up for this game. I get Notre Dame won by 30 somehow last week, but they were trailing 13-10 at one point in the fourth quarter. And then if you went to get lunch, you came back and it was a 30-point game. So Notre Dame struggled last week.
Which is what Blake did, right?
Yeah, I had lunch with my dad, and all of a sudden you look and it's a 30-point game. And I say, what the hell happened? Lyle, is Jack Cohn projected to play?
I think so, as far as I know. I mean, I guess the reason Buckner didn't play last week was because he had a hamstring injury, and we'll see if they put him out there for some packages this week. But I think Cohn's supposed to play.
Yeah, so whether he plays or not, I still like the Bearcats in this one. Guys, we got a great comment here from Seth Bowie. I'll let you guys read this right here because he's completely right. You guys need to step your game up and grow a nice, beautiful mustachio right there. All right, guys.
I got to be honest. It sounds like Seth. I think it sounds like Seth is a guy who has a mustache, and everyone tells him his mustache is gross.
Nah, Seth, you got a mustache. Your mustache is awesome. All right, guys, another
The
great
only
game.
acceptable mustache is like the curly, like big curly one.
Oh, like the Oregon strength coach.
Yeah,
like the Oregon strength coach,
who
was always by the way. Bro, go ahead, Brady.
I was gonna say you look like you're prepping for a Halloween costume a month in advance.
Hey, it's my Gardner Minshew again, man. I'm doing my Gardner Minshew again.
You look like a drunk Super Mario.
Guys, we were watching.
I didn't come up with that one.
We were watching the
Someone else
Oregon
said that to
game.
me.
We were watching the Oregon game recently, and MJ goes like, "Is it just me, or is it like anytime they show like Mario Cristobal on the sideline, the strength coach is always in the shot? No matter where Mario Cristobal is on the sideline, the strength coach is always in the shot somehow. So he knows what he's doing."
So
He's
question.
He's got to be the get back coach.
He could be, but does he know where the camera is at all time and he's getting his screen time? Or
he does.
Or is he just so noticeable that it seems like he's in every shot? Because a guy like me in the background, some random normal looking dude, you're not going to notice me. You're going to notice him.
No, he's in every shot. Confirmed. Every shot. He's in like 3 shots at once. All right, guys. Number 8, Georgia at number 8, Arkansas at number 2, Georgia. The Hogs are an 18-point underdog.
Arkansas. Should I keep going with my road teams and pick the Hogs on the road against the Dogs? To that, I say Arkansas. It's been fun, guys. It's been fun. I'm taking Georgia. I'm taking Georgia by 10 at home. I think Arkansas will have a couple of plays in the first half where they get a little momentum and you think, oh, wow, like this could happen. I think in the end, Georgia wins by 10. I think AP poll voters drop Arkansas after a 10-point loss all the way to 78. But then in reality, I think Arkansas is still a decent team. I just think that this is a big-time wake-up call for Arkansas. But I think it's a little bit of a challenge for Georgia, too. I just think Georgia's a much better team.
I'm taking Georgia in this one, too. And I think we're going to learn what Arkansas really is and who they really are. Because if they keep this game close, they'll hang around for most of the season in terms of where their ceiling is for the college football playoff. And they're off to a good start. They're undefeated to begin the year, and people are starting to pay attention to them a little bit. But if they go into this game and lose by 3 touchdowns, I think people are going to realize, well, we're just back to square one of where we were a week ago, 2 weeks ago, what we keep saying on this show. There's like 2 good teams, and Alabama and Georgia, and then there's everybody else. So I think this is going to be an interesting game, but I think Georgia wins.
I also think it'll be pretty interesting. I think it'll be really close actually throughout. I don't think either team will have more than call it a 2-touchdown lead at any point in the game. I think it's going to be pretty back and forth. I think Georgia wins it, but it's going to be pretty close. I really do. This is going to be, it's going to have Big Ten feel with how close it is, but it's going to be very high scoring. So I think, you're going to get, call it, 42-35 vibes from this game. It's a lot of offense. The one thing that will stick in my mind, though, is last week, Arkansas threw the ball 9 times. They're going to have to spread it out if they want to get something against this Georgia defense, which, in my opinion, is the best all-around defense in the country.
Right.
You got to do something other than throw the ball 9 times. You can't just rely on one aspect of your offense. So I'm going to go with Georgia, but I think it's going to be pretty close. I think Arkansas shows what they're made of this week.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see because we will have answers in regards to Arkansas. We'll have answers in regards to Georgia. This defense is legit, but I'm shocked that it's 18 points. I think Arkansas definitely hangs around. I think they can keep it within 18. Will they win? I don't think so. But then again, with how good their defense has been, how dominant their run game has been, this is the kind of game where I know Brady said it could be a high scoring game. I wouldn't be shocked if this is like Arkansas wins 17-14, where they just score enough to squeak by. But it'll be a good one. But another great SEC game. Number 12, Ole Miss. Number 1, Alabama. Hope you guys like points. The over/under is currently set at 80, which I have never seen. I've never seen an over/under reach 80 before. So I think the points are going to be flying. What do you guys think? I mean, I've been saying this for weeks. Alabama potentially an upset watch. Ole Miss now is all the way up at number 12. They got a really pissed off Lane Kiffin now because of PTI of all shows, tooting his horn. So, what are you guys' thoughts on this one?
Yeah, wow, that was some rant on PTI. I like Ole Miss. I think that they're a good team, and I think Matt Corral's has been playing out of his mind. Kiffin's got himself a pretty good squad at Ole Miss. This is going to be a very humbling experience for Ole Miss. I think they put points on the board this week. I think they put more points on the board this week than anybody else will score against Alabama this season. But I'm taking the Crimson Tide, and ultimately I think it's a convincing win for Bama.
Well, I think we know there's going to be a lot of points scored and there's going to be a lot of yards gained. Do you guys remember that stat I read when these two teams played last year? It was like that Ole Miss prevented 43 yards. In a sense, the maximum possible amount of yards they could have allowed in that game to Alabama was 720, and they gave up prevented 43 yards and gave up like 678 total yards or something like that. I just remembered that. I think this could be the best quarterback matchup we get all year, or at least one of them with Bryce Young and Matt Corral. And again, I think it's going to be fun and exciting because there's going to be a lot of points scored. I think Ole Miss keeps it close for, I'll say, 2.5 quarters, and then Alabama pulls away. Alabama.
If any of you can tell me what hottie toddy actually means, I'll pick Ole Miss. Exactly. You can't.
Is that what the kids are saying nowadays?
Yep. Yeah. Alabama. Easy.
Yeah, I think for Ole Miss, I mean, we know that they're going to score, probably at least 40 points. They might score 50. Alabama's going to be doing that as well. They're going to need an interception or two, a fumble or two that's going to have to go their way because at one point you're going to have to hold Bama. I don't know if they'll be able to. That's why they need a few things to go their way. This is going to be an exciting one. Like Lyle said, best quarterback matchup we're probably getting this year between Matt Corral, Bryce Young, a battle for the Heisman. Both these guys are currently Heisman favorites. Yes, Josh.
Hottie toddy means quite literally nothing.
Exactly. It's just like a war, like a ho, like a
well, there you
suey.
go. I'm going to pick Alabama, but I think Ole Miss hangs around. They're a 2-touchdown underdogs, so I think they're going to go with they'll keep it within 14, but who knows? I wouldn't be shocked if Alabama wins this game by 30 somehow. All right, guys, the worst of the worst. This is like a nice little appetizer for the worst of the worst champion, which is coming next week. Featuring one of these teams, but yeah, next week is so special, but this week's just as special as well. Guys, it's UConn at Vandy. Vanderbilt is currently a 14.5-point favorites. So that just goes to show how bad UConn truly is, but hey, stranger things have happened.
Stranger things have happened, Blake. This is this one's something, guys, because Vanderbilt is really bad. I have friends in Connecticut. Multiple. That's all I've got to say about Connecticut. But Vanderbilt. Now, let me tell you, you say that this is the worst of the worst. We have not even brought up, you are blatantly ignoring how Tim Corbin has built this team, this program, into an absolute powerhouse. They are in Omaha every year. They win the SEC almost every year. This is a program that is elite, and I am taking Vanderbilt's baseball team to beat UConn's football team on the gridiron this week.
Okay.
Man, can both of these teams lose?
No, that's next week.
Well, next week too, but
I feel like I can predict who it is, but I'm not going to say anything. I have not looked at the schedule, but I think I know who it is.
I'm going to take Vandy just because they're in the SEC. And maybe playing some better competitions helped them a tiny little bit. But, man, it's a coin flip.
Vandy by 30. This is going to be the best win they've had in the last, call it, 10 years.
They're storming the field.
Yes.
They're rushing. Vandy wins, but they don't cover the 14. That's impossible. All right, guys, the final one
Short
of the
round
week.
says UConn covers. Vandy wins 35-28 in 5 overtimes.
We'll see.
Wait,
Arizona State.
It's going to be 0-0 going into overtime.
Well, no, remember after
that.
the third overtime, you only do 2-point conversions now.
Yeah, never mind.
That's the stupidest rule. ASU at number 20, UCLA.
ASU is supposedly like 99% healthy this week. Chip train him. Daniel Ngata is going to be carrying the ball. Elijah Badger got some carries last week. And then, of course, Rashad White. That's the best running back group in the country. Just the duo of Trenham and Rashad White is the best in the country, but all four of them is pretty deadly. However, until I go to the Rose Bowl and watch the team that I am paying to go see win a game, I will not pick that team to win. I've got UCLA at the Rose Bowl. I think they're a solid team. I don't think they're a great team. And last week was the only time this year where I was impressed with the product that Arizona State put on the field. It was probably my ringing of them last week that hyped them all up. We'll see what happens. I'll be there. I'm excited for it. A chance to see ASU in person this year. Probably the only time I'll actually get to see them play in person until maybe a bowl game. But excited for the game. I'm taking UCLA at home.
I think it's going to be a close game. I think this is going to be another good game. I'm going to take UCLA too in a close. I'm going to say by 7. And I think ASU hangs around, and I feel like deep down this is going to be one of those painful ASU losses. It really feels like at the end of it, man, they should have won. But I think UCLA just edges out a win.
I'm going ASU on the road. They got hopefully, most likely, all their running backs back. They got Chase Lucas back on the secondary now, which is a big loss for them. He has been huge. And the wide receivers are finally catching some balls for ASU, which was been a big problem to start off the year. So I think ASU is finally finding themselves as a team and finding themselves as a unit. So I'm going to go with ASU on the road, knocking off UCLA, sort of a redemption from 2 years ago when they lost there.
Yeah, I believe ASU was 0-2 in games we've been to at the Rose Bowl, correct?
Well,
Yeah,
ASU, the last couple times they have gone to the Rose Bowl favored, they have lost. The last time
if
they
I
went to the
remember
Rose Bowl
correctly,
and
go ahead, Josh.
What?
Sorry, I was going to say something, but go ahead.
the last time ASU went to the Rose Bowl and UCLA was ranked, they were like number 7, and ASU was the better football team from the opening kickoff and beat them.
They were number 4.
UCLA? No, they were number 7.
The Balaj Barrage game?
Yeah, they were number 7 or number 9 or something like that. I don't think UCLA's been higher than 6 or 7 in like 30 years, but if not more. But the last couple of times ASU has gone in favored, not only have they lost in really bad ways. And I actually don't know what the spread is for this week. Does anybody know?
It's 3.5
Blake
or
knows.
3 or 2.5. One of those, 2 or 3.
For UCLA?
Yeah.
Is it UCLA -3?
Yeah.
Well, then maybe ASU wins.
I'll take ASU just because we're all against UCLA. We're all against ASU, so I'll take ASU.
You guys remember that one time a few years ago, all 4 of us went and sat in the stands and watched the ASU UCLA game? That was a good time. Yeah, all 4 of us.
I had a great time.
Yeah, me too.
He
Do you
caught
remember that? Do you remember that?
the
Do you
football.
remember that game, Lyle?
Yes, of course.
Who was caught
As
the
a-
football?
Who's caught the football? I'll go with ASU. So that wraps up this week's edition of the Harris Highlight Show. I know Brady, he has to go eat. He has to go have some
I
dinner.
haven't eaten. It's 9:45 and I'm hungry.
He's not doing the Brady Clean diet. That's going to come in a few weeks. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure to follow the show on Twitter at the HH Show _. We are now live on Twitter. So, hey, if you guys want to watch live on Twitter, Sean sent me a text saying he was watching on Twitter. So it's working. We're over there now. So you guys can follow us on Twitter. What's your take on the newly announced Super Bowl halftime show lineup? Fantastic.
Oh.
Fantastic.
This is one thing that I've seen everybody on Twitter agree upon, like ever.
Right.
The one thing I've ever seen.
It's gonna be nuts.
I can't wait for it to
Yeah,
start
I think
out.
it's really cool. But my Super Bowl halftime show lineup would be Lonely Island,
Yep.
Jack Black,
Yep. Weird Al.
Mark Wahlberg, Marky Mark,
In the Funky
and then
Bunch?
I would just Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, and then just to top it all off, I'd also throw in Kanye, and I think that would be really interesting. So since that is not this year's halftime show lineup, I think this one that we got is pretty much the best one we could have got other than mine.
All right.
There
Did
you
they
go.
start off the whole show with Still Dre or California Love?
It's a good question.
That's a really good question.
Probably
I would guess
California Love.
Yeah, that was my guess too, because it's in LA.
Yeah.
I think they start with California Love too.
Whatever it is, it's
That's not.
going to be.
I say that'd be like a theme of the song that you'd want to end on. I just don't think that's like a halftime show finale song.
No,
So I think
it's
you
the
could
opening
start
line.
it with that.
It's
And you're
the
gonna get
opening
Eminem
song.
going on like Rap God or whatever just to end it.
Yeah,
just
then they're
crazy.
gonna have to mute the entire thing because he's just gonna have no filter. So fantastic halftime show. It's gonna be amazing. Guys, any parting words before we head out for the week?
Devils invading the Rose Bowl this weekend, baby. They are offering $25 tickets for UCLA being ranked in the top 25 because they could not fill it up. They are offering online. If you were to look up, I was looking at $55 tickets this week, and I was like, you know what? To go see my alma mater, I'd pay $55. Like, that's pretty easy. But then, as I'm about to get these tickets, I get a text from my roommate that's like, dude, look at this. $25 tickets because they can't get anybody there. That's a steal. That's a steal.
I might have to take advantage of that
Steal.
because I know the folks want to go. My uncle
Do
might
it.
want to go. But yeah, we saw there was like 50 something bucks. Tickets for 25. Hey,
General admission, $25.
hey, we got great memories at the Rose Bowl. Last time I
Josh,
believe
don't make any little kids cry.
I believe, yeah,
It was
was
an
that 2
accident.
years? Was that 2 years ago when Josh was just cussing, saying how much he hates the UCLA band? I think that was.
No, I didn't cuss.
Well,
No. 2 years ago was when we were all joking around and I was shouting "Fire Kelly" with all the UCLA fans, and I didn't realize the little girl in front of me was named Kelly, and she got very sad. It was a dark day in my life.
Sounds like the little kid who was told Tatis sucks, and his dad had to film him and try to expose Dodgers fans. All right, guys, well, that wraps up this week's show. Again, Brady's got to go eat. The dude's got to eat. Look at him. I mean,
I gotta go pick up my food. I ordered it. I gotta
what do we
pick it up.
got
Man's
tonight?
gonna eat.
Pizza.
What do we got tonight?
Pizza.
Ooh. That's a good choice. All right. Well, for Josh Schaefer, Lyle Goldstein, Pretty Clean, this has been Blake Harris from the Chateau in beautiful Monrovia, California. Thank you guys for watching. Don't worry, short round. This will be gone by next week. Or maybe it won't be. We'll have to wait and see. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you guys right back here sometime next week.